Hello everyone, my name is Jesse White. This is my final presentation for BMET 2301 under Mr. Keeter, and we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. The equipment I selected was the GE Healthcare Mac 5500 HT ECG machine. We'll go into some of the details about this machine. So quick description. So basically this is a very user-friendly resting ECG monitor. So it's going to sit in the hospital setting and monitor the patients as they're resting or as they're sitting in their unit. One of the key things about this is it's tied into the Muse connectivity, which is a overall hospital-wide setting where they can transmit patient data across machines into separate wards and units. So this is a patient scan, monitor, and transmit system. It does have an internal and external battery power supply, so it has a battery life of around 4 to 6 hours without the external power supply. And then, of course, as that external power supply is plugged up, it's going to charge that battery, and it could run continuously. It has patient history storage and ECG printouts and readouts, and it is wirelessly PDA capable, so you can have a personal device connected to this that you can control remotely from that PDA. So for the troubleshooting steps, these are the 7 we're going to run through for the 3 issues that we have. The first is identify the problem. Second, determine the probable cause. Plan to solve the problem. Then the problem resolution and verification. Then we're going to re-engage the issue, and then talk about mitigation of future issues, and then lastly, documentation. All right, so our first user issue is we get a call in. The user is saying that the device is failing to power on. So going through those steps, so the first step 1, get back to my notes. So we're going to interview that clinician. We're going to ask them what actually is going on with the device. Is there any other error codes popping up? And then once we get there, we're going to have a visual inspection and walk through that process to see if we can identify any other root causes. So during this time, we see the error code with this error icon that's pictured. So we have a battery with an X bar over it. So moving on into step 2, we're going to utilize the troubleshooting section of our user manual, which is 15-1 for this particular unit. And we locate that error code, which is that picture icon. And the manual is telling us that we have a lack of power supply, most likely because of a dead battery. So moving into step 3, we're going to develop our action plan of how we're going to fix this problem. And per the service instruction, basically all this unit needs is to have that battery charged. So pretty simple step for getting this charged. We're just going to plug it straight into the external power supply, and that's going to charge that battery. So we're looking at a 4 to 5 hour charge window that we're trying to charge up the device. As that device is plugged into the external unit, though, however, it is going to power on. It's going to run from that external power source. And again, so the solution is just going to charge that battery and plug it into the power source. As far as re-engaging the issue, once we plug in, we're going to see if that error icon goes away. It should switch from an error icon of dead battery to a charging icon. As long as we're seeing that and we're seeing the unit power on, we should have resolved that issue. As far as mitigating future issues, we're just going to inform the clinician of the actual battery life of that unit. Try to walk them through the user manual with the error icon pictures and graphics and illustrations, and show the several ones that they could see working with this unit, and then what the simple fixes are for that. So in this case, dead battery, charge the battery. Pretty straightforward. There was no equipment needed really outside of what the device had, which was the power cord. So there's no purchase request needed, no need to put any order requests for extra parts. And then for documentation, we're just going to go through our 5 W's, list out who we talked to, what problem was addressed, how we solved it, and if any parts or tools were needed. We're going to annotate it there. And in this case, there was none needed. Moving on to user issue 2. So we have a failure to print out an ECG readout, and they're calling in saying that it's simply just not printing out. So going through that same process, we interviewed the clinician. Haven't had this problem before in the past. It's the first time they've had the issue. They're rather new to the system, so they're not aware of the error icons. So we do the physical inspection, the visual inspection once we get to the unit, and we notice this error icon. We also notice some other visual discrepancies with the device, being that the actual door itself to the printer lid is open, so the writer door is open, and the device is out of printer paper. So there is no printer paper installed in the device. So probable cause, per the 15-1 user manual section, the error icon displayed is described as a writer door open error. So the lid of the printer is open pretty much. So obviously it's not going to be able to perform its proper function. But the bigger issue is obviously there's no paper installed. So the solution that the individual, the user, needs to go through to fix this problem is just simply install paper and then close that writer door so that the device can function properly. Again, no other equipment or tools are really needed for this outside of the printer paper that should already be provided with the unit. And it's a simple plug and play for the user, so they're just going to put that paper, reinstall the paper, and they're going to close that writer door. And then as far as verifying the solution, we're just going to try to reattempt to print out that ECG readout and see if we're successful. And no other error codes pop up at this time. User pops in the paper, closes the writer door, and we're good to go. We're able to get the printout. As far as mitigation of future issues, just inform the clinician of, again, the error codes and what they mean. So showing them that layout, or just handing them a printout of the different error icons and the graphics that are in the troubleshooting manual. That way they have a quick reference of, what does this mean? What's happening right here? How do I quick solve this? That would help a lot of these issues. Also, just ensuring a follow through with a routine maintenance. So if most likely what happened was the device, whether it was a user outside of the one that was actually using it, they might have been trying to, put more paper in it, but just got distracted or preoccupied with something else, and then kind of left that job half done. So the door was probably open, paper was taken out, but there was no paper reinstalled, and the writer door wasn't closed. So just ensuring proper routine maintenance. So if you go into it to finish a job, just make sure you do it all at once and you get it done and over with. That way you don't run into simple issues like this. And then of course we're going to document everything as we move forward, just like we did with issue 1. Right. Our last issue is a failure to transmit data. So we're not able to push out the data that we're getting from the ECG through the Muse system. And the main thing here, the error message that's popping up is it's a statement. It's saying, I quote, "Modem error. The remote device is not responding. Would you like to retry?" Close quote. So the issue here is it's, as I said, not able to transmit that data. So again, we interview the clinician and we get it pinpointed down to this device. Hasn't had any issues in the past. It's operating properly. They're just failing to submit that through. So it's sitting there, it's trying to go through, and then nothing's happening, and then this error message just popping up. We do a physical inspection, confirms the error message. We are able to see that message being displayed, and we also notice another physical visual discrepancy when we're doing our scan. And that moves us into our probable cause. So per 15-1 of our user manual, we know that it's a connectivity issue most likely. And there's 3 possible solutions to this issue depending on what kind of connectivity they're using. So whether it's wireless or plugged in, so a landline, those are the 2 main things. So in this case, we have to talk to the IT professionals to see what exactly the unit's pushing their data out on, and we confirm that it's a plug-in Ethernet cable, so the LAN cable. So, which is also something that was highlighted in our visual inspection. We noticed that the LAN cable was unplugged and also damaged. So the in was damaged, as you can see in the illustration there. So that was laying on the floor, not plugged in. So obviously, there's our root cause to the problem. So the plan to solve the problem is very simple. The user needs to replace that damaged LAN cable and then reconnect that LAN line back into the unit, and then retry the connectivity and to submit that data. LAN cables are very common materials in the hospital setting. There's a stockpile of these within the ward's units, so there's no need to order these, and this is a very simple plug and play. You're just going to remove that old landline, and the user is just going to reinstall the new landline. So there's no need for any actual work repair there. It's just the user issue, swapping those out. And once they plug it in, so the problem resolution verification, we're just going to verify that once that line plugs in, this unit, as many other units, automatically does self-run tests. So as soon as that landline is plugged back in, it's going to automatically start to run a connectivity test, and then it's going to try to seek that connection. And so the LED lights within the unit's display should be starting to blink and flash, and then eventually you're going to want to see that green light pop up, and the activity light should be flashing yellow, saying that stuff is being transmitted. And again, if you get another error message popping up, then we'll know there may be an issue there. But the verification of that would be to just connect the landline, let the system do its job, let it run a self-check, and in this case, it does. The connectivity goes through, and they're able to resubmit the data. So it's just a reattempt, and it passes through. As far as mitigating future issues, just giving the clinician and user a rundown on what connections are being used with the Muse system, and what cords and cables and like what external parts go into that unit. So what needs to be plugged in, where it needs to be plugged in. You can give them a sticky note if you need to, and like put it on the back of the machine, and like simple checklist. Here are the things that you need to make sure are plugged in to this machine in order for it to operate properly. And then again, we're going to document the landline that was used for the work order. We might have to put in for inventory what one landline coming out of that stock inventory. And then we're just going to annotate and do like we did with the other two steps, all the processes of the 5 W's that we went through, who we talked to, what we fixed, what we addressed. And that is it. Try to keep it nice, sweet, and simple. If y'all have any questions, feel free to reach out at any time. Thanks.